Now, the other thing that's important is for the act is that you want to make sure that the net new fiscal impact to the Commonwealth is positive, so that after any potential rebates have come out, that Kentucky still is seeing a net benefit fiscally. And so we run quite a bit of extensive modeling to understand what's going to be the economic activity on site, what's going to be the impact off site and in Kentucky, who are going to be the new people coming into to the Commonwealth, how long will they be staying, how much will they be spending. We get into probably 100 different assumptions based on lots of different data sources to understand what the economic impact is going to be. And because there's been no small amount of controversy about this project, and some people have been concerned about, how is this going to play, how is this going to be promoted, and what will the experience be like. You don't really know until it's built. You get a good idea from the applicant. And so what we did is we really looked at two scenarios. One is a mainstream approach that the Noah's Ark, the Tower of Babel, kind of presented in a very, I guess you would say, mainstream way that would appeal across multiple religious and other groups to be an attractive historical, biblical related kind of experience. And then we took a more conservative approach in scenario B, which basically made the assumption that there was going to be a more narrow interpretation of historical events that may or may not appeal to a larger mainstream audience. And so that really took about a 30 to 40% cut off of the scenario A. So we ran both of those scenarios. So first of all, in looking at scenario A, does the attraction attract at least 25% of its visitors from outside of Kentucky by its fourth year of operation? And clearly we believe it will in both scenarios, and in fact we don't believe that the percentage will be different between the scenarios, just the number of people would be different. But the way we went about this analysis, just to give you a little bit of background, is we look at utilization rates. And essentially what that means is how likely is somebody from a population group likely to visit this attraction in any given year. So we looked at everything from museums and zoos and aquariums and theme parks, and looked at what we call it a catchment area. What's the market that they're trying to market to and capture their folks from. And that could be the whole country for something like Disney, and it could be a regional area for something more like an aquarium. But for something like this, they're going to be marketing to most of the country. We put the catchment area at about a 600-mile radius, which gets you up a little bit into Canada and over to New York and down to northern part of Florida and out west toward just past the Mississippi River. So it's a pretty wide catchment area. And what we did is we assigned these utilization rates to Kentucky, which is a very tight geography, and then outside of Kentucky up to a 4-hour drive time, and then we did it with that between the 4 and 12-hour drive time. And the assumption is made that the closer you are to the project, to the attraction, the more likely it is that you're going to go visit it because it's an easier drive. So you can see that these utilization rates are higher the closer you get. But all the utilization rates are significantly lower than any of the ones that we looked at because, again, this is a novel concept. We think it has a lot of positives to it, but you just don't know. So we wanted to be extra conservative in our analysis. So in terms of projecting the utilization rates, the base year scenario, 1.31 million or 381 million people, and the percentage of those outside Kentucky is 86.4%. So in both scenario A and scenario B, it meets that requirement. What about the net positive economic impact on the Kentucky economy? And so essentially what you have is you have impact on site, and then you have people who are traveling to Kentucky to go to the project, are spending money on gas, on food, on lodging, on all these other things. And because if there are enough people coming to an attraction, as we believe this is certainly a very robust project that will have more than 1 million people coming every year, at least in scenario A, that will generate the need to actually develop additional support amenities, such as limited service hotels, additional restaurants in the area, because as we mentioned, within that county, if you go 10 miles in either direction, there is very little support amenity for folks coming to visit. So especially up and down I-75, we expect there to be additional development. So we ran these models and for both scenarios, and if you look at the sales tax impact and the income tax impact, over the 10-year period for scenario A, we see a total of $103.4 million in net new fiscal impact. And then you have the impacts coming from the actual development of the Ark Encounter itself. You see the 165.8, which is the development cost minus the land. And then you have the induced development of hotels, restaurants, retail, and other that we believe will happen over a 10-year period after the project is developed. And so you have additional net new impacts there. Everything we look at assumes only spending and new spending from outside of Kentucky. So the scenario A fiscal impact summary, we expect nearly $120 million in net new sales tax, $53 million in net new income tax, only $173, and then we have deducted $11 million, that is the estimate to be spent reconstructing an interchange for the site so that there's better logistics at the site, and we've also subtracted the maximum potential rebate, which is $43.1 million. So if the entire rebate were earned over the period in scenario A, we still see the net new fiscal impact to Kentucky is $119 million. Scenario B, which we mentioned, was a more conservative approach, assuming a narrow interpretation of historic events or biblical events, and you can see there that the number is approximately half there in the bottom right, $54 million, and we also have a lower amount of induced development because we believe the number of people coming to visit the project is less, and the need for additional hotels and restaurants will be less as well. So the net sum fiscal impact then for scenario B is about $65 million. So you can see that the deducts were the same, but on the revenue side, those numbers were less. So the net is approximately $65 million.